Hey, this is Cesar Chavez back with another episode of The Juice. I tried to record this previously, and when I watched it, it was just way too long, and I rambled for a long time. So I'm going to try to keep this brief. I'm going to go over treble hooks, some weedless hooks, line choice, and reel choice having to do with gear ratio. For some soft baits, but mostly hard baits, that's where I feel like I add the most value. So let's start off with hooks. Just jump right into it. When I look at treble hooks, I consider these Gamakatsu round bins one style hook. They have a longer shank than, say, a Owner ST36 style hook. Both round bin hooks. This has a longer hook shank. I don't know what size these are. These, if they're the same size or not, but you can see that just from the shape, the Owner is a little wider of a hook, so it's gonna stick out a little farther on some baits, on the side of the bait, which I think really helps with hookups. These are gonna hang a little farther away from the bait. Which can also help with hookups in certain situations. And then the other style hook that I use, these ST46, ST56, I think the Owner STX series is also this shape. Those are supposed to be really thin and strong, but when it comes to metal being thinner and stronger just in general, you get a more brittle product. And I've actually broke some of those hooks just by dropping my bait off the counter, fell on the ground, hook broke. So I wasn't into that. And I bent them with some pliers, broke the hook. So I don't really use those. The KVDs are like this. A few other brands are like this. I really like that style too. So the round bin hooks, I really like these, especially for fish that might swipe. Like swiping fish, you're going to snag more of them on the outside of the face with a hook like this. Very good hook. But when it comes to choosing between the 36 style and, say, a Gamakatsu round bin BMC Mustad makes a hook like this. I think the way I do it, it really comes down to the body size and shape. So with these wake and cranks, a lot of times I'll use the Gamakatsu black nickel round bins. I like those. They're a little thinner than the Owner ST36 that these come with stock, but they're a little stronger. I think when they hang down a little more, sometimes you get an advantage because you'll get them in the corner of their mouth because it sticks off the bait a little bit. And these can work very well. I've had these work all the way up to big ratfish because sometimes that little longer hook and thinner wire, it really penetrates deep right to the bend because it's thin and just razor sharp. And it's even, that little bit more off the body will make a difference in hookups in certain situations. If that makes sense. But they can also cause the hooks to tangle together, which some people don't like. ST36, a lot wider, shorter shank, kind of like a square bill crankbait style hook. Great hooks. I like these because they're a little wider, so when I get to my rat baits or any baits like that, it's where I really think about them hard because they're a little wider than the bait, so when the fish grabs down, you'll still get a barb. And then these style hooks, these hooks I don't think are very good for those fish that swipe, especially on a wake bait where they're just going to come under and maybe they don't crush it. They just, you'll snag them. These will work on those, but I feel these shine when they're biting more aggressively. I do really like the ST46, which is a 2X, and it comes in this tinned hook. I do a lot of work on this on the Wade Hogs, which is my gill wake. But I also like the tinned hook for anything shad color because I think it's more natural. ST56, I love this hook. Rats. Wake baits, everything. It's just a 3X. I vary my hooks to adjust the float rate. I think that's a very effective technique. I've talked about it in other videos. So that's why a lot of times I'll switch between these. the 46 and 56. Or, like I said, a shad color. When I go rats, I like it to have black hooks. Even though I have caught them on silver hooks on rats, I just prefer the black hooks. So these are strong as hell. I think it's because the way the bend is, maybe, and they do have the stronger wire, but you can bend out any hook. But these are very, very great hook. This one is probably one of my favorite hooks, the ST56, especially 1/0. I wish they made larger hooks, but they don't. I also use the 4X ST66 hook. You can see that on hook baits like this, my 12-inch glide. These are, when you see this hook, don't think about it's too thick to penetrate. These things are razor sharp. You're going to drive that thing home. That's a 3/0 hook. It's about the size of a 2/0 hook of other ones. Great hook. You can see I'm double split ringed there. When you attach your hooks, if you worry about a fish twisting off, you could do that. I like it because this is such a big bait. I want them to get away from the bait a little bit. I want them to have more room to pivot and this not be stuck to their face as much. I've heard other people I've talked to other people about real small hooks on glides because it keeps it close to their face and doesn't allow it to swing. And they're very effective with that technique. I can't comment on that. On most of my baits, I don't double ring. On big rats, I'll double ring. Any of my bigger, bulky, wide stuff, I double ring with heavy-duty rings. It's just a preference of mine. So when you're thinking about your hooks, I know there's cutting points, ST41s. Some people prefer Japanese hooks. The quad trebles are great. I don't like that they don't make big enough, but those are sticky sharp, and they stick. Everything sticks to those. Can't complain about those. Decoy makes great hooks. I've been using, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's like Ryuga Pierce Brutal treble hooks. They're from Japan. They're expensive, but they're Teflon coated. They're similar to this, but they have this sharp bend in them. Those are super sharp, super great hooks. I like those too. So I don't think you can go wrong, and I don't think there's a treble that does everything. I think when it comes to treble hooks, when they're swipers, you're going to like these round bends probably more because it's going to stick to their gill plates, hang down, and they might hang down a little more. With this one, you might hook up more. And the bronze is kind of less visible to fish. I noticed that. This doesn't show up as much in the water. But swipers, pick your favorite hook. Round bend, I think, is important. Heavier duty hooks, or when you're not on the surface, I prefer to throw these, but I will switch in a heartbeat to these to these lighter wire hooks with a bigger bend, real sharp, and the angle doesn't point in like that. It's pretty vertical, so it's going to catch those swipers. They're just swiping my bait, I'll switch right over. But a lot of times when I switch to a 1X, I'll switch my rod. I'll switch from a heavier, like an 8.3 Maverick that I throw my weight hogs on. I'll step down to the 8-foot Defiant heavy mod because I don't want to bend those hooks out. I really put the screws to them. I don't use drag and stuff, so I really want to bend those hooks out. I don't want to bend them out, so I might switch my hardware to match the hook. That's important. So if you use a stiffer rod and you're bending hooks out, I mean, it's pretty obvious. Step up your, the strength of your hook, but you might lose some hookups if they're eating a certain way. But I think Monday they might be eating it this way, and Tuesday they're eating a different way, and one day the hooks shine. Monday these hooks shine, Tuesday other hooks shine. I think it's hard to have a hook that does everything. But this is my recommendation, and that's how I pick my hooks. Swipers, thin wire, light line, lighter rods, long cast that I need penetration. There's not a lot of heavy cover. I'll go with these lighter hooks, or fish swiping at it that I need to snag in the face. If you haven't experienced that, a lot of times with wakes, you'll be throwing a wake bait, especially on the surface, and they'll just boil on it, and I don't know how they miss the hooks. They do. Or they'll hook up for a second and then you don't get them. These will put more fish in the boat, in my opinion. I don't like the ST41s. I think they cut a big hole and they have that beaked hook. Not for me. Some people love them. So, I mean, do you. If you know what you're doing or if it's worked for you, keep doing it. But don't hesitate to change if one hook has better attributes. So on line through baits like this Rising Sun, I prefer these Gamakatsu round bins all the time. This is all I really want to throw. It's hard when I get into the really big stuff. And when I get into the big stuff, I'll throw the 46s, and if I feel like the hooks are bent down a little bit, like they bend up, I'll just bend them straight. I'll just bend them out a little bit so they point down a little bit. But the Gamakatsu Bronze and the Gamakatsu 2X Black Nickel, awesome hooks for line through baits. That's my preferred hook for line through baits. Rising Sun and Ospreys are my preferred line throughs. So I use the Beast hook. That's the 12-aught. That's what I use. I have some trocars with the little kelp spike. Those are great hooks too. I don't like cutting points. Just a personal preference. I don't have any problems with these. Even with the trocar has the nice big spring. I don't know. I have my toothpick trick. You could check that out. It says weedless swim bait trick, I think, or something. It's one of my videos where you push a toothpick after you screw the screw lock in the nose of the bait. You just slide a toothpick off and you trim it. And it really holds it in there and won't come off. I don't have it done to this, but this is a Rago on a 10-aught Beast hook. Beast hooks, I don't know. They work. I don't really try to grab a ton of stuff because I know these work. They work for me. If I pull this out on fish, it could be a pain, but swim bait's expensive. Swim baiting is expensive. The toothpick really helps, but good soft bait. I really prefer really soft bait if I can, because now those fish will come up and eat it like that. It happens a lot. They'll come up behind that bait or sideways. A big fish will come up and just slurp this thing in and fold that up. And when you're pulling on that, you got to hope that you snag them in there. And you want a sharp hook and you want to just drill it home. And I think that's a lot of times you'll pull that out because it's just awkward. They'll do that with the HUD too. They'll fold that HUD up in their mouth sometimes, and then sometimes it comes back like this, and you're burnt. So I don't think there's a lot you can do. But Beast hook, I think they're good enough. If you like the trocars, go the trocars. Can't go wrong with the owner Beast hook, I don't think. The toothpick will save you a lot of baits if you're pulling too many out. But if you're pulling it out, it means you got a soft lure, and I really think that usually gets more bites. So pretty simple with the weedless hooks, treble hooks. Now when it comes to line, I use Berkley Big Game usually, original P-Line PF, and Sunline FC Sniper. Simple. I use this because it's proven, it's strong, it's tough, abrasion resistant. I haven't had a reason to change, so I just trust in this. I like this because it's really thin. I change my line a lot, and I use the KVD line conditioner. I think that's a big part. That will really save you on memory when it comes to copolymer. This is a copolymer. I like Big Game because it's like a rubber band. I mean, it just is what it is. It could be positive and negative. It stretches a lot, so when I'm throwing baits like this, I actually prefer, if I don't really need to throw the fluoro. Fluoro is always an advantage, but I throw this on 25-pound mono a lot, especially when around covered docks, weeds. There's a lot of stuff, or cloudy day, where the fish don't have a really good eye on it. I really like 25-pound for really large baits. It handles them well. It has some give around the boat. And that's why I like it. I'll use it for rats too, big rats. Anything that'll have really mean, aggressive, large fish next to the boat. Or when you're fighting them, I think this really helps. Because with a large bait, you're using a stiff rod. You have to cast the bait. So when you have some line that has some stretch in it like this, then it's going to actually help you with the rod. It's going to lighten that rod action up a little bit. And when it comes to this big stuff, I think that could be an advantage. And I'm talking big stuff. Or larger rats. When big fish eat a large rat, they're usually mean as hell. And they'll thrash next to the boat, tear on you on the hook set, break hardware, rip rings off, all that stuff. So this can be a great line for those fish because even next to the boat, it does have some give. This is my preferred line all around, all the time. I use 20 pound because it's very thin, thinner than almost all the 20 pounds I've checked out. 25 is my workhorse for stuff like my wake and crank. I'll go 20 on the lighter side if I need to get it down deeper, or I'm using a lighter action rod. 25 is great, strong, up to 4.5, 5 ounces, I'd say, of casting continuously. And then I move up to the 30. I think the 30 pound PF, I have it here. I think it's the same diameter as 20 pound big game, but it's really good, less stretch. I love this for my wade hogs. I love this for my big crank downs. I mean, and all the way up to this glide. This will throw this glide too. I'll throw it on this 30 all the time too. And sometimes I'll go with this if I feel like that 25 pound big game is just looking like cable. Sometimes it can if you're not moving it, if you're not moving your bait and it's just hovering. That big game can look bad. Or I'll step up to 25 pound fluoro. So I try to keep it simple, but I keep the attributes of the line that I'm using in mind. So mono, if I want some give, some stretch, that's really what I use it for, is for the stretch. So the shock resistance. This is just an awesome line. Don Mormon put everybody on this back in the day. I mean, as far as some swim bait cats, like he really pushed that, and I tried it and I love it. It's thin. It has very thin diameter. It's neutral buoyancy in the water. You know, I'm sure you know this will really float high, keep your bait from sinking if you're using a glide or some neutral buoyancy. This kind of hangs out. It doesn't float so high, so this is a good line. And then, of course, you don't want to keep your bait down. This is the way to go. Killer stuff. So on my reels, this is a 200. This is a 253, similar to a Shimano 300. And this is a 300 Daiwa, similar to a Shimano 400 in size. So I throw this when I throw braid, which I'll throw braid early stain condition with hollow bellies. I throw a lot of hollow bellies. I love them. I don't know why people don't throw them. They're smoking. And I like this Rago. And if it's stained water cloudy, 65 to 80 pound straight braid, it's hard to beat with that. It drives the hook home. And early season, I like this slower 5-3-1, so I'll throw it on this because this can handle some decent line. In the braided category, I don't like when my spool gets low. So, or 20 pound mono copoly, even fluoro, I guess, but really the 20 pound PF or 17 pound. This 200 wide is a great reel for small stuff. This is a Savage Gear Roach. This is a really bad dude right here. You could throw this on it too. You know, up to 2 ounces, I'd say 2.5 ounces. Probably good with this thinner line. 5-3-1. I try to always use it for my crank down baits. I'm a spastic guy, so I usually end up reeling too fast. Say with like this Low Pro, this is the Coastal 7-3-1. Guys say they could just slow down with faster reel. That ain't happening for me. I'll tell you right now. So I think keeping a slow, consistent retrieve can be really crucial to hard baits. I fish them fast and slow, but a lot of times slow is the ticket. So I prefer the 5-3-1 on my hard lip baits, wake and cranks, wade hogs, my big stuff, my big wakes, my big 8-inch and 10-inch crank downs and wakes. I prefer that slower ratio. So when I step up, I use this 300 253 size or whatever. This is a Daiwa Millionaire 253. I throw baits from 2 ounces up to 7 or 8. This got all the guts of this. It's just a different size spool and frame and stuff. So these are usually strong reels. I know the Calcutta TEs are phenomenal. So you can't go wrong with that. And these 300s, I actually throw this on these 300s because this has, even though it's 5-3-1, it still has a little faster ratio because it takes up more line due to the spool size. And you could really overwork these. And if you throw this all day, you'll appreciate the torque here, I think. And you could take up plenty of line with these. I mean, as far as mine goes, cuts plenty hard. This big bait. I never really need to just smoke that line in. I also use the Daiwa Kago 300. I don't have it in my box over here, which is a faster ratio, 6-3-1. And I will throw it on that deemed necessary. But this is pretty, I like this for my mother-sized glides, big soft baits, Rago, SKT, 11-inch, soft tool, 11-inch, 12-inch Osprey, stuff like that. Cool reel for that. Then Daiwa Coastal 200 Tatula HD. I think that's a really great option for this style size reel. You can throw a depth 250 on these reels. The guts are proven. Guys are doing it. You can get them for cheap on eBay. Can't go wrong with these low profile Daiwas. The Tatula HDs. You can swim bait your ass off with those, basically. I also have Lexa 300s. I think the sun's sitting around. I usually have some. But I also use the Lexa 300. Great reel, really on the cheaper side, but I upgrade the bearings and go through them and take some bushings out. I think there is some work to be done to make it a reliable swim bait reel. A lot of guys fish it with the bushings. I don't do that, but it's only $30 for the bearing upgrade, and you can kick those out. So Lexa 300 is a great option for your mid-size swim baits. And then anything in the big low profile, if you don't like these round reels, I would recommend this stuff. And then stepping up to the Lexa 300, this is the Lexa 400. I know that there's other low profiles, Big Shooter, 13 Fishing, I think, has them out. Everybody's making a big low profile now. But for the truly big baits like this, if you want a low profile, I would definitely recommend going for the 400 size, so you could have plenty of line on there. If you get your line too low, your gear ratio will change, because every time you turn the spool, the circumference of that spool is a lot smaller than it would be if it was full. So instead of whatever your inches per turn is, it'll be dramatically reduced. And a few inches doesn't sound dramatic, but when you put 10 reels in a few seconds, it's 30 inches in those few seconds. So it can make a difference. I always keep my my spool full, and I try to spray that KVD line conditioner the night before, just a light mist. I've noticed that really helps with memory, and it's nice to have your line laying out there nice and flat. Great with fluoro. You can spray it on braid. So you're going to want to get something quality. I like these because I did concrete for long enough that I have like carpal tunnel. So when my hand's real small, it's more comfortable to leave it open. So I prefer these round ones, and I prefer the slower gear ratios. When I pick my gear ratio, is pretty important. Like for all my hard baits, I go with the 5-3-1. Large glides 5-3-1. Sometimes when the fish are aggressive, I'll step up to a 6-3-1 or a 7-3-1 for my smaller shad. I call these shad swim baits, like shiner shad, like the weight crank, 7 inches and down, transitional swim baits. I'll go with this faster one, so I can put fast turns, pop it, reel it, and then when they eat it, especially in the current, a lot of times in the summer they're real hot, you got to catch up. If the fish are real hot and they're smoking me and I can't catch up, I'm always going to go to the faster reel. And that'll happen with spotted bass, smallmouth a lot. But so that's where I go up to these faster. And also when I fish a soft bait, whether it be this or whether it be this or whether it be a Hud style bait, I prefer 6-3, 7-3-1. I mean, I don't ever go with these. I can slow down enough for those soft baits. For some reason I can, because I'll use the rod to pull it a lot of times, stuff like that. So, but I want when they eat this thing, especially with soft baits and especially with this, a lot of times they'll pop it. I call it popping it because they'll eat it and then it's like a jig bite where they'll eat it and you'll feel slack. So when you feel slack, you can come tight on them right away, but you're going to pull that stretch out if you're using mono or co-poly, a little bit of stretch. So I like to catch up to that fish real fast. I like to reel down, boom, boom, boom. As soon as you feel the rod start to load, you can start to feel pressure. That's when I'll come in and set up on that fish. And I feel like the faster gear ratio allows me to do that, especially because if they have this bait in their mouth, like they'll come up from the bottom and they'll eat it like this, or up here, you have to move it in their mouth. And I guess you could lube it up. I don't like touching that nasty junk. I'll use Bang because it's aerosol and I can spray it on. I guess they can lube it up. I'm sure it does. But their teeth are like sandpaper, like little daggers, especially if all they're eating is fish. So they'll be locked onto that. So along with the lube, it's pretty essential, I think, to move that bait in the mouth. And it's not just the rod that does that, and it's not that initial jarring, stiff rod hook set. It's the constant pressure when they're coming at you. So you get it into them and you just keep that pressure. It's always great when they turn away from you because it helps set the hook. But if they're coming at you, you got to make sure that you can keep up with them. And a lot of times you can't move this in their mouth. You only have one hook, or you have to drive it home. And that gear ratio, I think, is really essential to keeping up and keeping that fish pinned on the bait until that barb is able to drive home. So when it comes to hardware, I'm pretty simple. On my baits, I ordered from Worth Ring Company, made in the USA, stainless steel. I've had some questions about them. They're not hyperwire, but they are a very quality, heavy-duty stainless steel split ring. I fished them all year. I've had no problems, haven't had any complaints about them. Worth doesn't make a split ring I feel is heavy enough to step up to like the heavy-duty stuff. I don't trust, say, that one. So on my heavier stuff, I'll use these flat-sided hyperwire style rings. Hyperwire 6 and 7s are hard to beat. I mean, you can't go wrong with that split ring. Sampo, all those. There's some great split rings, but a lot of people seem to like the hyperwire with the flat wire. I prefer this rounded edge. That's why I went with the Worth. And it's nice to support an American company that does great work. But they don't offer a ring for the bigger, heavier stuff. So I use these imported flat-sided stainless steel because you don't want to, on rats and these big baits, you don't want to lose the fish of a lifetime or even a 5-pounder, I'm sure, because faulty hardware wasn't strong enough. So I think you could overkill. I'm not putting heavy-duty crap on this unless I want to weight it or something. I don't think it's necessary. But when you have this big weight of the lure wrenching, pulling on everything, you could have some hardware fail especially when you get that one fish. And that's what we do this for, I'm assuming. Like most of you are out there trying to catch that big fish that's eluded you with conventional gear on swim baits. So you don't want to lose them once you hook them. I know what that feels like. So the only other thing is I see people talk about snaps and split rings. I think that's a preference. Snaps will make your bait act a little different. I never used to use them because I didn't have confidence. Now I use musky style snaps or whatever that I order in bulk. They're great. You can use a Berkeley crosslock. It's not a crosslock. I forget what it's called, but maybe it is the crosslock. Don't use the duo lock, the ones that have the wire that stick outside that are real cheap. I've had okay with that Berkeley, but I don't use them very long. I use them on the bait not to switch in and out. I don't use them to switch in and out. Or if I do, after a half day of switching, I cut it off, throw it away. Because I don't want that wire to get weak. I just use them because of they impart different actions, or various reasons. But it's a preference thing. Split rings work great on the front too. Glides, a lot of times I'll tie direct. I don't know if any of you guys do that. I think you have more control over the bait when you tie direct. But basically, that's like a quick rundown of making some selections to get started with swim baits and hard baits. I guess this last little thing, these feathered hooks. I don't know. I think they look great. Sometimes I put a black one on my rats in the rear hook to make it look like feet. I've had success with it. Had success without it. These came on a Depths 250 that I previously owned. Never fished with red hooks. It was a trout colored style bait. Said screw it. 5 casts in, I started catching fish with them. 2 days later, I decided to take them off. I kept catching fish with them. Without them. I don't know. I don't throw them that often, but I could definitely see them being a trigger mechanism or making your bait look different enough to get bites. So, give them a try. That's the real deal. Let's just really try this stuff. When it comes to hooks, think about it. Think about your approach. Think about where you're fishing, the cover you're fishing in, the fish you're catching, how they're eating the bait, what shape your bait is, how wide your bait is. Really look at that stuff because it could get you a few more fish in the boat. Gamakatsu round bins, bronze and black nickel. Owner ST36, 46, 56, and 66. That's 1X, 2X, 3X, 4X. Quality proven hooks, always uber sharp. If you want to try the cutting points, those are the 41s, 51s, I think, ST4151 by Owner. I don't like the cutting point. I think it slices a big hole, but other guys have had great success. And everybody, one thing works for one guy, it doesn't work for another. So I'm not saying this is the only way to go. I'm just giving you my recommendations on what I've experienced in the past, 10 years or whatever, of pretty much throwing only swim baits and trying to figure this stuff out on a system that isn't traditionally dominated by swim baits. So, I hope this helps. And give these lines a try. Sniper, great fluoro. There's a lot of stuff that comes out. You don't really have to try everything. Just go with what's proven, because you don't get a lot of shots in swim baits, so you want to make those shots count. So thanks for checking me out. I hope this helped you guys out. I'm really gonna try to get out to some of these other guys. We've all been busy, but I got some guys lined up to give some more info, so it's not just me barking at you. And we'll get some some great insight from some great anglers. Thanks for stopping by.